This conference will now
Hello,
be recorded.
hello, good morning, everybody. Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. Today we'll be discussing about management of age-related macular degeneration. As the name suggests, it is an age-related condition and it affects mainly macula. With age, there is degeneration of the macula, means the normal functioning macula starts to get affected. In simple terms, it is age-related macular degeneration. So it is a macular degeneration which is occurring with increased age or as the age progresses, usually seen in 5th to 6th decades. The basics and the preliminary concepts of age-related macular degeneration has already been dealt on Saturday. Today we will be mainly highlighting on management of ARMD. So just before going into management, we will just go into the basic definition of AMD. More than it is seen commonly in age group more than 50 years of age with one or more of the following. So what are those clinical features or clinical signs which decide that the patient is having AMD? One, drusen. Second, RPE abnormalities. RPE means retinal pigment abnormalities. Geographic atrophy of the RPE or choriocapillaries. Neovascular maculopathy, or usually no other etiology also can be there for a patient to have ARMD or age-related macular degeneration. So these are the classic findings which are commonly seen in patients with age-related macular degeneration. So what is a drusen? What are the RP abnormalities which are occurring in age-related macular degeneration? And how is atrophy occurring? Once atrophy has occurred, what is the consequence of that? How is neovascularization occurring? We will see a small picture of the same. Now this is the normal retina. You can see this is the macular region. The U-shaped region is the macular region. It is a cut section of the retina. Now here is the Brooks membrane, and this is the all these form the 10 layers of the retina, right from the RPE, retinal pigment epithelium, then rods and cones, receptors, and outer external limiting membrane, outer nuclear, outer plexiform, inner nuclear, inner plexiform, and so on. Yeah, ganglion cell, nerve fiber layer, internal limiting membrane, all these form the 10 layers of retina. If you see, the vessels are normally there in two particular zones, that is superficial capillary plexus and deep capillary plexus, the SCP and the DCP. So these vessels are normally present in these layers of the retina. If you can see here, they are in the outer nuclear layer or just below the outer nuclear layer, they are seen. Now if you see this, this is the pigment epithelium. Now when the light enters the retina, it gets absorbed by the pigment epithelium and it is transmitted through rods and cones or these receptors from there through first order and second order neurons which are present in the retina, and then the message is transmitted through the optic nerve and so on along the visual pathway to the brain. So now what is happening in age-related macular degeneration? So what is the basic problem in age-related macular degeneration? First, what is the problem? Here, the pigment epithelium starts to get degenerated. So what is the function of pigment epithelium? Normally, these rods and cones or some structures which are there, the excretions of these cells which are there, these are phagocytosed by RPE and they are pumped out and excreted into the choroidal blood vessels. Now here what is happening? The RPE function is lost. So when the RPE function is lost, what happens? There is accumulation of lipoproteins or the lipid-like structures below the choroid. So when there is accumulation, that leads to immune reaction there and immune cell mobilization, and further it leads to the cascade of events. So the vicious cycle starts. Over a period of time, what happens? This pigment epithelium gets thinned out, and it leads to proliferation of new blood vessels which break the Bruch's membrane, and they start to enter into the retinal layers. So this is the problem here. So this stage is dry AMD. When the blood vessel starts entering into the retinal layers by breaking the pigment epithelium, the degenerated pigment epithelium due to angiogenesis, that stage is called wet AMD. So I hope the concept or the basic problem, what is the problem in AMD, is clear. So you should first understand what is the layers of the retina, how many layers are there, what is happening below the pigment epithelium, what is the function of the pigment epithelium. In AMD, what is happening? The pigment epithelium is getting damaged. The functioning of pigment epithelium, once it is damaged, there is a break in the pigment epithelium over a period of time, and then under the pigment epithelium there is angiogenesis, and this angiogenesis protrudes into the retina or enters into the retina, and that leads to hemorrhage on the retina, and that in turn leads to visual loss. So when the blood vessels start coming into the retina, it is called as wet AMD, because these blood vessels start leaking. There is accumulation of protein, lipoproteins or lipids along wherever there is leaking, which will affect the vision of the patient. In wet AMD, still if you see, only the pigment epithelium is damaged, but rest of the rods and cones are almost normal. So the vision is affected, but not so significantly affected, but it is a precursor for wet AMD. Not all patients with dry AMD will go into wet AMD. A few percentage, 5 to 10% of patients will go into wet AMD. Now this is how the patient with the AMD will present. Since macula is affected, this is how he will see. The central black scotoma which you are seeing is, this is how the patient will classically describe his visual complaints. So what are the common problems which we come across in case of AMD? So these scotoma is one thing. Second thing, reading difficulty. Reading difficulty because the central part of the macula, the cones are maximum, which aid in good near vision. So when there is a macular damage, it will definitely affect the reading. Metamorphopsia is alteration in the structure of the visual object. The object is metamorphosed. Metamorphosed means it just changes its shape. It is not in its normal shape. So that is metamorphopsia. Sometimes the patients can have sudden visual loss, or that is because, as I said, in wet AMD, the blood vessels enter and they can bleed into the macula, which can lead to sudden visual loss. Now, this is the basic. What happens in the pigment epithelium? What is happening in the retina? What is dry AMD? How does a patient present? Now, I will show you a few pictures of dry AMD. If you can see here, these yellow dots which are seen here in the macular region, there are different types or of different sizes. If you compare these three pictures, diffuse yellow, light yellow color dots, which are much deeper in the retinal layers. These are nothing but drusen's. So, which is more risk for developing neovascular AMD? If you see the drusen's in these three pictures, you see the drusen's here are quite big. They are big in size. So the risk is very high in the third picture, the picture which I am showing in the arrow. Is risk is very high to go into neovascular ARMD or wet AMD compared to these earlier two pictures. Usually in dry AMD, there is no surgical intervention or no management required except taking some medicines. But if wet AMD has set in, you have to actively intervene to prevent further visual loss. What are the investigations? So how do you go about investigating a case of AMD? We have to see the retina first. Obviously, you have to perform the normal ophthalmological examination, check the visual acuity, see if it is not improving with best corrected glasses. Then what do? If the vision is not improving, then you dilate the patient eye and you examine the fundus. In the fundus, if you see drusen's and the size of the drusen's, if they are not corresponding to the amount of visual loss, then you have to perform some investigations. So what are those investigations? One, fluorescein angiography. Second one, indocyanine green angiography, and OCT or optical coherence tomography. Now, what is a CT scan? CT scan, what does it do? It takes slices of our body and it is imaged. It's something like an X-ray tube which takes the image of our body in slices. Something like similar to that is optical coherence tomography. That is computerized or tomography. This is optical coherence tomography. So what does it do? It takes the sections of the retina, cut sections of the retina, so that you are able to see the picture which earlier I showed in a cartoon form. You are able to see that picture clearly in optical coherence tomography. So what is fluorescein angiography? Here a dye is injected into the patient's antecubital vein, and as the dye enters into the blood vessels into the eye, of the blood vessels of the eye of the patient, you take the photographs and you identify where the leak is, what is the location of leak, or where is there any new vessels formation or not. So you identify that. So these are mainly for examination of retinal blood vessels. Choroidal blood vessels are seen but not so brightly seen as in case of indocyanine green angiography. Indocyanine green angiography is mainly used to see the choriocapillaries, which are below the retinal pigment epithelium. So the choroid, the eye has three layers: sclera, choroid, and the retina. So in the choroid, there are blood vessels, large blood vessels, medium-sized blood vessels, small blood vessels. And in the retina, there are two plexus of blood vessels, that is superficial capillary plexus, SCP, and DCP, deep capillary plexus. So to analyze this SCP and DCP, you use fluorescein angiography. To analyze choriocapillaries, you use indocyanine green angiography. To take the cut section or to analyze the retina as a whole, you take OCT. So these are the basic investigations which has to be performed for coming to a proper conclusion and to assess the amount of damage the patient with AMD is having. You have to perform all these three investigations. Now coming to the next slide. So what are the indications? When will you perform a FFA in AMD? When the patient is complaining of these particular features, you have to obviously perform FFA, because whatever you do, lens is clear, vision is not improving, and you are seeing some drusen's, whatever glasses you are giving the patient is not improving. So then you have to ask for an fundus fluorescein angiography. So these are the common complaints: metamorphopsia, central scotoma, paracentral scotoma, unexplained progressive visual loss, which has already been discussed in clinical features. Paracentral scotoma means, just in the picture what we saw earlier, the scotoma was in the center. Paracentral means just on the side of the center, just besides the center, the scotoma is present. Scotoma means non-seeing area in a seeing area. It is a simple definition of scotoma. You are not able to see a particular area in a visual field. So that is scotoma. So now, when do you perform FFA before you plan to start treatment? You obviously you have to perform for diagnosis, for localization of the lesion, for planning of treatment, and for follow-up. These are obviously for any investigation. These are the obvious conditions where you perform investigations for any clinical conditions. Now, if you see this picture, this is an FFA. You can see in this first, this is a colored photograph, and you are able to see lot of drusen's in the macula. So there are yellow spots which are deep. How do you know these yellow spots are deep? You can see these blood vessels, they are running above these yellow spots. These blood vessels, they are running above these yellow spots, and these yellow spots are nothing but they are very deep. So that indicates that they are below the pigment epithelium. You can see these blood vessels running above it. If there are hard exudates, they are usually seen around the blood vessels. So these are all these superficial and deep capillary plexus. So once we have injected the dye, fluorescein dye, you can see the blood vessels very clearly, and the capillary plexus also you can see very clearly, and there is pooling or there is staining of these drusen's which are commonly seen. So when you examine a case of fundus fluorescein angiography, you are able to see two things there. One is dark and one is bright. So you are able to see a black and white picture. So the area which is dark is called as hypofluorescent, hypo, H-Y-P-O, and area which is bright, the white color, is called as hyperfluorescent. So you can see few staining or few staining of these drusen's which are around the macula. The central macula is normal. So this patient is having dry AMD, but clinically he might not be having so much of visual loss because the central macula is clear. So this is the advantage of, but if you see this color fundus photograph here, lot of drusen's are there in the central part. So, but clinically speaking, no active intervention might be required for this patient. Just medical management might be sufficient to prevent the progression of drusen's. Now you can see a little bit more severe form of drusen's or dry AMD. You can see the drusen's have become big, and you can see a lot of whitish region around the macula and some haze in the macula also. So that means these hazy regions have started to progress into the macular region. Definitely it will affect the vision of the area. So there are a lot of hyperfluorescent areas around the macula, and even after the dye has evacuated the main blood vessels, there is staining of these drusen's or hyperfluorescence is still present. That indicates that there is a lot of damage to the retinal pigment epithelium. Now I will show you a picture of how a fluorescein is compared to an ICG. Now the right side picture, I mean the left side picture to me is fluorescein angiography, and the right side picture is indocyanine green angiography. Now this is a classic case of AMD or wet AMD where you will see new blood vessels growing in the macular region. So these are the main blood vessels, central retinal artery and vein, superotemporal and inferotemporal, supernasal and infranasal. I will just switch on the video. You can see the difference. So can you make out the difference on the right side and the left side? In the central part, you can see a lacy pattern of hyperfluorescence which is developing, and this is the deep choroidal vessels where you can see abnormalities of deep choroidal vessels which in this particular region as compared to this is the fundus fluorescein picture, and this is the ICG picture. Here you can see the deeper layers are very clearly seen. Apart from the main blood vessels, the deeper layers are very clearly seen. You can see here in this particular picture of FFA. Now this is an example of classic CNVM or classic central neovascular membrane, or it is called as wet AMD, where you can see leaking around the fovea and new blood vessels forming. When you examine the ICG, lot of new blood vessels are seen in this particular region. So this is the advantage of performing a fundus fluorescent angiography or indocyanine green angiography. Now, this is an example of geographic atrophy. Now, if you don't treat a patient with AMD over a period of time, what happens? There is atrophy. The pigment epithelium gets atrophied, the retina above it gets atrophied, and you are able to see the sclera. Just the whitish area is nothing but the sclera there. So it is called as atrophy. The retina has got completely thinned out. So that is loss of retinal layers, superficial choroidal capillaries, and intermediate size choroidal vessels. Sclera is seen in extreme atrophy. So this, when you see an atrophy secondary to drusen, if you see here in the fundus picture, there are a lot of drusens all around, and in the central there is a geographic atrophy. So this is an example of geographic atrophy. In a patient with geographic atrophy, if he still is complaining of sudden visual loss, then you have to rule out central choroidal neovascular membrane. That is nothing but wet AMD. You have to rule out. So FFA findings usually depend upon the depth of the involvement. If you see this particular picture, you can see here in this fundus picture is showing some lesion in this particular area, but when you do an FFA over a period of time, you can see lot of hyperfluorescent area just below the macular area or just below the retina. So that indicates that that much amount of pigment epithelium is damaged, or probably there is a leak in that particular area. So what happens when wet AMD develops? As neovascularization develops below the pigment epithelium or new vessels develops, they start to push the pigment epithelium upwards. So this pigment epithelium gets detached from the Bruch's membrane. So it forms a blister-like lesion with clear fluid, and the FFA sign, it shows pooling of dye over a period of time. Pooling means initially the hyperfluorescence will be minimal. With the time progression, the hyperfluorescence goes on increasing, and even in the late phases of FFA, the hyperfluorescence is maximum. So this is a danger sign for harboring CNV or hemorrhagic PMD, PED, or sudden visual loss. So what is, so if you see here in this particular area, if you see a blister like lesion like this, then you have to suspect a PED, pigment epithelium detachment. Why is this pigment epithelium detachment occurring? Because the pigment epithelium has got atrophied. The new blood vessels have grown below the pigment epithelium. The atrophied pigment epithelium has got ruptured, or it is pushed upwards, and because of the new blood vessels are growing with below the atrophied pigment epithelium, and that situation is called as pigment epithelial detachment. And when these new blood vessels grow into the pigment epithelium or break into the pigment epithelium, then there is leakage around the pigment epithelium or below the pigment epithelium, and that is called as pigment epithelial detachment. Now, if you see the fundus fluorescent pictures, the earlier phase, there is a faint hyperfluorescence. Over a period of time, the dye goes on getting accumulated, and in the final phases of fundus fluorescent angiogram, there is pooling of the dye, and hyperfluorescence goes on increasing. So this is a classic example of pigment epithelial detachment in wet AMD. As I said, OCT. Now, if you see this particular picture, there is a central neovascularization which is occurring. CNVM which is present there. There is leak, and pigment epithelial detachment is seen in this fundus picture. And your fundus fluorescent angiography is showing an hyperfluorescent region which is increasing in the final phase because of the pooling of the dye. Now, this is the FFA picture. Now, this is an invasive procedure where you have to give the dye into the patient's veins. But you can also perform this investigation by using an OCT. This OCT is nothing but a cut section of the retina. From here, if you take, this is the internal limiting membrane, and this is the pigment epithelium. So here you have the outer nuclear and the inner nuclear layer. Now this pigment epithelium layer in the central part, if you can see, it has got detached here and it has formed like an hump, and there is complete disorganization of the inner retinal layers, which is seen in this OCT. This is not a very clear picture of the OCT in earlier time domain OCT, which is being shown here. The recent OCTs are much more better than this particular picture, but just to have an idea about pigment epithelial detachment, I have put this picture so that you can identify this pigment epithelial detachment in this particular case. So this is the advantage of OCT. It's a non-invasive procedure where you just take a photograph of the retina, and it gives you the cut section of the retina. Now, based on the location of CNV, so once you have decided to treat the CNVM, first you have to see where the CNVM is. Is it in just below the fovea, or is it around the fovea, or it is far away from the fovea? If it is just below the fovea, it is called as subfoveal. If it is from somewhere less than 200 microns from the center of the fovea, then you call it as juxtafoveal, that is just on the side of the fovea. If it is beyond 200 microns to 2500 microns from the center of the fovea, then you call it as extrafoveal, because each one has its own implication. Extrafoveal might have some chances of gaining vision, but subfoveal, just below the fovea, the visual acuity is drastically affected. So you classify the type of CNVM based on its location. Now, what are the treatment options? Earlier, somewhere in 1980s and 90s, they tried laser treatment for CNVM, which is not of which is not used much in these days after the advent of anti-VEGF therapies. And these photocoagulations are very much diminishing, or nobody is doing these photocoagulation nowadays. It is nothing but just burn the retina. Laser means, what does the laser do? It just goes and burns the retina wherever the leakage is occurring. So once it burns, then it forms a scar there, and it prevents further damage. So that was the whole idea of giving laser. But with the advent of anti-VEGF, anti-vascular endothelial growth factors, the laser photocoagulation has drastically come down. So this was the next treatment which was tried, that is photodynamic therapy, or use of verteporfin drug. What does this drug do? Once it is injected into the blood, it goes and gets accumulated wherever new blood vessels are there in the retina. So, and light is thrown, or some laser energy is thrown onto the retina. This drug gets excited. The free oxygen radicals are released, which damages all the new blood vessels exclusively in the retina. So that was the advantage of verteporfin. The usage of this verteporfin also has come down. It's also known by the name Visudyne or Visudyne, VISUDYNE. It's a dye which is injected into the veins. So what are the criteria for selection of photodynamic therapy? It is CNV secondary to AMD. Whenever there is new vessel, or whenever the CNV, it is a classic CNV, or when there are some occult components, and when the lesion is less than 5,400 microns in its linear dimensions. These are the classic criteria when you perform a photodynamic therapy. What are the problems with verteporfin? It can cause hepatitis or some liver disease. It is very photosensitive drug. They can have allergy due to porphyrin. These are some problems with verteporfin drug. So this was also a dye which was injected into the veins, and once this dye reaches the eye, because of its oxygen radical release, it used to damage the new blood vessels and get the AMD under control. So that was the idea of photodynamic therapy. So if you take, for example, in photodynamic therapy, this is the lesion. The lesion was measured, and the amount of energy was decided, and the delivery duration was decided. Now, this is a classic example of PDT, where after the injection of the dye, the laser energy was given in this particular area for 83 seconds, 15 minutes after the start of infusion of verteporfin. So around 6,000 milliwatts of per centimeter square, light dose of 50 joules per centimeter square, and the greatest treatment spot. So this is the not. This is you mark the amount of CNVM and just take around another 10 microns around that zone, and this particular complete zone is treated with laser. So this is how you treat by PDT. But all these two methods are no longer done nowadays. Nowadays, the best drugs have come. One is triamcinolone acetate, ranibizumab, and pegab sodium, Nacugen also it is called. These are, what do these drugs do? You give them intravitreally. You give them inside the eye into the vitreous. So these drugs decrease the neovascularization or causes regression of this neovascularization. So you don't have to go through these tedious procedures of having lasers and giving injections and allergies and so on. Directly you inject the drug into the vitreous. This vitreous, at least patient requires one injection for 1.5 months or 1 month. So approximately around 6 injections might be required, or even sometimes even they go up to 12 also. But every month injections are required. It's a very costly drug. It costs around some 10,000 per injection. So it's a recent alternative which has come out for age-related macular degeneration. Sometimes you can also combine these above two therapies, PDT with intravitreal triamcinolone or PDT with anti-VEGFs. So anti-VEGFs, the basic concept is it decreases the neovascularization, and PDT is nothing but the dye which is injected. It goes and damages the new vessel specifically when the laser energy is hit onto it. Now this was the till now we have discussed management of wet AMD. Now all these patients who are having drusen, I said medical management is only left, or you can just give medicine, just give some tablets. Now what do those tablets contain? They should contain vitamin E, C, beta carotene, zinc with copper. The dosage of this E is around 400 international units. Vitamin C is around 500 milligrams, and beta carotene is around 15 milligrams. Zinc is around 80, and copper is around 2 milligrams. So this is the dosage according to ARDS. ARDS is nothing but a study which is done for age-related macular degeneration or age-related eye disease. Okay. So coming to lutein, what is lutein? Lutein is nothing but a macular pigment which protects against ultraviolet rays. So you can also, these drugs have had a recent addition of lutein into along with vitamins. So what is the advantage of lutein? It's a macular pigment which protects against ultraviolet rays, and it's a newer technique to measure in vivo lutein, and zeaxanthin may contribute to some evidence. Macular pigment density can be increased by dietary intervention or supplementation. So this macula contains lutein pigments. You are supplementing it orally. So definite improvement is seen in majority of patients who have been given lutein along with vitamins. Now, what do you advise for these patients in case they are at home? So they cannot keep coming every day to you. So you have to analyze whether the visual symptoms are worsening or whether they are progressing. What do you advise these patients? So you give them a chart called as Amsler's grid. Now, what does this Amsler's grid do? This Amsler grid has a center point here, black spot. You ask the patient to keep looking at the black spot and identify all these squares, whether they are of equal size, whether the lines are straight, horizontal and vertically, whether the corners are seen properly. If the patient has this Amsler grid, what does it do? It tells the status of macula, whether it is healthy or not. If the patient has some macular problem, this particular area around this black spot will not be clear for him. It will show a scotoma in this particular area. So daily he has to monitor his vision by using this Amsler grid. So whenever the patient has any problem when he is looking through this Amsler grid, then he has to approach an ophthalmologist or the retina specialist as early as possible. Now you have done all the treatment. You have given medical management. You have given lasers. You have given vertiporfin, or you have tried PDT. You have tried anti-VEGF. Still, the patient is not improving because there is a damage to the macula. Then the only option which is left is to use magnifiers. Magnifiers are nothing but these are, like, for example, if somebody is not able to read a fine print on a book, what do? You give him a lens, handheld lens in the hand, something like this. So this handheld lens will help him help him to magnify the letters and read the letters clearly. So these are all some low vision aids. Whenever the patient has low vision aid secondary to age-related macular degeneration, you try to magnify the objects by giving high plus lenses. So some examples. If you see this particular, this is a digital magnifier. This is kept on the book. A small letter like this on the book will appear a big letter like this to him. So this is a magnifier. This is a lighted reading glasses which has lights in the glasses here, and it will increase the light on the book so that he will have a better contrast and he'll be able to read. So solar shields which will decrease the amount of ultraviolet rays which are entering into the eye, and telescopic glasses which will increase the size of the letters. So this is all just to improve his vision. It will not improve fully, but to some extent he will not be dependent on anyone, or he will be able to do his some minor works by himself. So because once the macula is damaged, then the prognosis of visual acuity is very poor. So to somehow try to improve to the minimum extent, or some to have some visual rehabilitation, you give this low vision aids. So to summarize this complete management of age-related macular degeneration, age-related macular degeneration is nothing but damage in the pigment epithelium where there is accumulation of lipoprotein or hyaline deposits below the pigment epithelium. Over a period of time, this pigment epithelium gets damaged and new vessels grow and they peep into the retina and they cause havoc there. So they cause damage of the retina. So when there is when there is blood vessels in the retina, it is called as wet AMD, and when there is blood vessels, when there are no blood vessels, it is called dry AMD. For dry AMD, medical management is sufficient. You give vitamin supplements, vitamin C, vitamin E, lutein, zeaxanthin, and others like zinc, copper, etc. are added in the supplementation. When there is a wet AMD, you have to give anti-VEGF therapy, sometimes combine it with PDT or no PDT. So depending on the situation, you treat the particular condition of the patient. If all this is done and still no improvement is there, then for visual rehabilitation, you can give low vision aids to the patient. This will help him to do his day-to-day activities without being dependent on anyone. So that is about management of wet AMD. So anybody has any clarifications?